Happy New Year, everybody. This is a new and improved JoeLumb's album review. All new episode. When you're done watching this episode, you can go watch past episodes on my album review playlist, which is in the description box. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to my channel, and hit that notification bell when you see a new video. You can just check it out yourself. Led Zeppelin 1, sometimes referred to as Led Zeppelin's self-titled debut, was released on January 13th, 1969 in the US, and on March 31st, 1969 in the UK, both by Atlantic Records. The album was recorded in September and October of '68 at Olympic Studios in London, shortly after the band's formation. It contains a mix of original material worked out in the first rehearsals, and remakes and rearrangements of contemporary blues and folk songs. The sessions took place before the group had secured a recording contract with Atlantic Records and totaled up to 36 hours. They were paid for directly by Jimmy Page, the group's founder and leader and guitarist, and their manager, Peter Grant, costing, in British money, $1,782, which is equivalent to $37,047 in British money in 2023 to complete. They were produced by Page, who was the musician, and was joined by other band members Robert Plant, John Paul Jones, and John Bonham. The tracks were mixed by Jimmy Page's childhood friend Glyn Johns, and the iconic album cover showing the Hindenburg disaster was designed by George Hardy. Led Zeppelin 1 showcased the group's fusion of blues and rock, and their take on the emerging hard rock sound that was immediately commercially successful in both the UK and the US markets, reaching the top 10 on album charts in both countries, as well as several others. Many of the songs were longer and not well suited to be released as singles for radio airplay. However, due to the exposure of album-oriented rock radio stations and growth in popularity of the band, many of the album's songs have become classic rock radio staples. To make a long backstory short, Jimmy Page was a member of the band the Yardbirds, and by July of 1968, they disbanded after two of its founding members, Keith Relf and Jim McCarty, quit the group to form the Renaissance. Chris Dreja, another founding member of the Yardbirds, left to become a photographer. The fourth member was guitarist Jimmy Page. He was left with the rights to the name and contractual obligations for a series of concerts in Scandinavia. Page turned to seasoned veteran sessions player and arranger John Paul Jones to join him as the bassist, and hoped to recruit Terry Reid as lead singer and Procol Harum's B.J. Wilson as drummer. Wilson was still committed to Procol Harum, and Reid declined to join, but recommended Robert Plant, who met with Page at his boathouse in Pangbourne, Berkshire, in August to talk about music and working on new material. Jimmy Page and Robert Plant realized they had good musical chemistry together, and Plant asked friend and Band of Joy bandmate John Bonham to drum for their new group. So the lineup of Jimmy Page, Robert Plant, John Paul Jones, and John Bonham first rehearsed on August 19th of 1968, which was the day before Robert Plant's 20th birthday, shortly before a tour of Scandinavia as the new Yardbirds. Performing some of the old material as well as new songs such as Communication Breakdown, I Can't Quit You Baby, You Shook Me, Babe I'm Gonna Leave You, and How Many More Times, they returned to London following the tour, and Jimmy Page decided to change the band's name to Led Zeppelin, and the group entered Olympic Studios at 11 p.m. on September 25th, 1968, to record what would become the first Led Zeppelin record. Let's go ahead and get to the track listings. Good Times and Bad Times was written by all four members of Led Zeppelin, clocks in at 2:45. Babe I'm Gonna Leave You, written by Jimmy Page, Robert Plant, and Ann Bredon, clocks in at 6:40. You Shook Me, written by Willie Dixon and J.B. Lenoir, clocks in at 6:30. Dazed and Confused, written by Jimmy Page, inspired by Jake Holmes, clocks in at 6:27. Your Time Is Gonna Come, written by Jimmy Page, John Paul Jones, and Robert Plant, clocks in at 4:41. Black Mountain Side, written by Jimmy Page, clocks in at 2:06. Communication Breakdown, written by all four members of Led Zeppelin, clocks in at 2:26. I Can't Quit You Baby clocks in at 4:41, also written by Willie Dixon. And How Many More Times, written by all four members of Led Zeppelin, clocks in at 8:28. Led Zeppelin's first album's success and influence was widely acknowledged, even by publications that were initially skeptical. In 2006, Mikhail Gilmore commented on Rolling Stone on the originality of the music and Zeppelin's heavy style, contrasting them with Cream, Jimi Hendrix, the MC5, and the Stooges, and noting that they had mass appeal. Led Zeppelin was cited by Stephen Thomas Erlewine as a significant turning point in the evolution of hard rock and heavy metal. According to arts and culture scholar Michael Fallon, it announced the emergence of a loud and raw new musical genre in metal. Greg Moffat for the BBC said that the band was a product of the 60s, but their often bombastic style signposted a new decade and a new breed of rock bands. The album was described as a brilliant, if heavy-handed blues rock offensive by popular music scholar Ronald Zalkind. Martin Popoff argued that while the album may not be the first heavy metal record, it did feature what was likely to be the first metal song in Communication Breakdown, with its no-nonsense machine gun between the numbers riff. In 2003, VH1 named Led Zeppelin the 44th greatest album of all time. The same year, the album was ranked 29th on Rolling Stone's 500 greatest albums of all time, their highest charting album on the list, maintaining the rating in a 2012 revised list, and ranked 101st in a 2020 revised list. In 2004, the album was inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame. Aerosmith's Joe Perry observed that Jimmy Page was an incredible producer and he wrote all these great songs. When he was cutting the first Zeppelin album, he knew what he wanted. His vision was so much more global than Jeff Beck and Eric Clapton's guitar playing. Playing guitar was just one part of the puzzle. The overall rating for Led Zeppelin 1 is a 70 out of 100. There was a 2014 reissue, along with the group's next two records, Led Zeppelin 2 and 3. It was reissued in June 2014. The reissue was met with widespread critical acclaim. At Metacritic, which assigns a normalized rating out of 100 to reviews from mainstream publications, the album received an average score of 97 out of 100 based on 10 reviews. Q deemed it as an improvement over previous remasters of the album, credited Page's contribution to the remaster for the revealing more detail. As far as I'm concerned, I don't care if it's original or the remastered. Led Zeppelin 1 is a very damn good album. This has been JoeLumb's album review for this Monday.
Don't